Welcome to this presentation about building commercial open source business model. Most of the information presented here relates to a book that was recently published called Profit from Software Ecosystems. And the key question here is, can a commercial open source business model be built? And I think it can be built, and we will look at three categories of building blocks. One is the business models. So there are different business models available that I can use and combine. And then a product and licensing strategy is the second category. Do I have one product? Do I have one product with several versions? And do I have one license? Do I have different licenses for the same product, different versions? And the third category is how do I leverage the community? The open source community can, of course, do some work for you as a company, and we'll have a look at different ways you can engage with the open source community. And by combining these three categories, business models, product and licensing strategy, as well as the way to leverage the community, you can build a successful open source business. In this presentation, the overall framework for classifying business models is based on the work by Weil and other MIT and Harvard professors who wrote an article on why do certain business models perform better than the others. And they looked at about 1,000 companies and created a classification of business models. And part of that classification I've put here and adapted it. So basically on top you have the type of products and services offered by a company, and you have intangible products, which is basically software and intellectual property. And you also have human services, which is services you have in the software industry, like developing products, maintaining, supporting software products. And on the left-hand side, you have different business patterns, if you like. Creator creates something, distributor distributes something, and a lessor basically rents or allows use for some time of certain products. And by combining these two axes, you get to an inventor business of creating intellectual property or creating software, a distributor business, and also the business of giving licenses out for software or for renting software, which is called IP lessor. And in addition to that, you have human services that I mentioned before, creating maintenance and support services, implementation services for software, which is called contractor here. So how do you create a commercial open source business model that is hybrid? You basically pick one or more of these boxes on the left hand side. And by doing that, you can create, of course, different business models. And if you look at the history of commercial open source business model, they certainly started with services, which is here the contractor business model, and with distribution, which is the IP distributor model, and of course also with the IP lessor business model that allowed commercial companies to license software under an open source license to customers. Commercial open source business models, and we're basically leveraging the four quote-unquote typical business models in the software industry to look at different combinations of these business models. And usually software companies take one or more of these different business model types we have here. And if you take more than one, then basically it's a hybrid business model, because it consists of more than one of these different business model types. And a commercial open source business model is basically a business model of a software company that uses open source and creates revenue either from the open source or around the open source software. What is dual licensing? Basically, you have two different licenses for the same product, or two licenses for two different versions of a product. So for example, a free version and a commercial version where you have to pay for are two different versions of the products, for example, and they come with two different licenses, an open source license and a commercial license. The second case is that you have basically the same identical software, but you still offer them under an open source license and under a commercial license, and it is very often used in a kind of appetizer model, where basically the open source license is a license that does not allow distribution or commercial use, and basically forces a commercial user into buying the commercial license instead of using the open source license. So here's the summary. I think we have successfully shown that there are three categories: business models, product and licensing strategy, as well as the way to engage with the open source community. And these can be combined to build a commercial open source business. And I hope that you are now well equipped with this information. So this was just a short introduction, a short appetizer to more knowledge that you can find in books, but also in on-demand video lessons that are listed on this page. So thank you very much for listening. I'm looking forward to create a successful as a customer of the books or video lessons.